Hello and welcome back to Speed Bumps with Charlie Kimball. I'm your host, Charlie Kimball, and one of the things I love most about this show is hearing stories of people who face down challenges and come out stronger on the other side. And today's guest has done just that multiple times over the course of her life and career. We're joined by Aimee Kandrac, co-founder and CEO of What Friends Do, a platform that helps people come together to support loved ones during some of life's toughest moments. Aimee's journey is filled with resilience, from navigating the ups and downs of building a company to personal challenges that have inspired her to create What Friends Do in the first place. She knows firsthand the power of community and support in overcoming adversity, and today we'll be diving into her story, the challenges she's faced, and just some of the many lessons she's learned along the way. If you've ever wondered about how to turn some personal hardship into something that helps others, or if you're looking for some inspiration to push through your own challenges, today's episode is for you. Let's give a nice warm welcome to Aimee Kandrac. Thanks for joining me, Aimee.
Charlie, it is a pleasure and an honor, and I am looking forward to a conversation with you as always.
So I want to go all the way back to your college career, because I think where you went to college has one of the best mascots, at least the best mascot name that I'm going to attempt to not butcher, because you are a graduate of Illinois, the Fighting Illini. Did I get that? Was that close?
Where are you? Who are you? And no, it's not close at all, Charlie. The Fighting Illini.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, them. The Fighting Illini.
That one.
There's just too many vowels and straight lines in that. I get very confused.
Someone on this podcast will respond, and I'm going to yell it, ILL, and somebody else is responding out there listening, saying INI, and that's our little fight song.
I love it.
I say this like I've been to the sporting events, but, I went to like 3 sporting events during my college career.
But you have the diploma, so that's all that really matters.
I do.
Like, you have the diploma.
And I worked there for a long time as well. So I still own orange and blue.
Wow, that's two of my favorite colors. Some of my first race car branding was orange and blue, so I'm a big fan of that color combination. So in your college career, firstly, what did you study, and how did that or did that not prepare you for your work building community support for friends?
Well, it's really funny you should ask this. Only in the past probably 2 or 3 years have I come to realize how beneficial my undergraduate degree really is in what I do right now. So I had a double major in sociology and history with a minor in French. I don't think I've spoken French since my summer after college graduation, and people gave me a really hard time. What are you going to do with a degree in sociology? And for years, it really wasn't until many years after I started my company that I was like, sociology, kind of exactly what I'm doing, building communities, putting people together, understanding how society works and communities like to work together. So yeah, I'm like, yay, sociology.
So you take your sociology degree and your French minor and apply it. What really was the sort of genesis of What Friends Do?
Well, so my first job out of college actually was at a flower shop in Hawaii, and I didn't use it much there at all. Then I moved back to the University of Illinois and was working in fundraising and development there, which was fascinating and fun, and getting to know people and understanding why people are motivated to help their communities. And while I was working full-time with 2 babies and a husband in med school, had a really, really close family loved one diagnosed with terminal brain cancer when she was 25. And
wow.
We're devastated, but also wanted to do something. And my family and I were kind of those first level friends who were in and out of the hospital and then sharing information with the masses. And what we found as we were sharing this information was the response was always twofold. The first was, please tell the family that I love them and I'm thinking about them. And the second was, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And
Right.
People wanted something to do, right? We knew this was a terminal diagnosis. It was a very hard and sad situation. The family felt kind of isolated, didn't know what they needed. But when we could come up with ways for people to be engaged and help the family, they would. And it was an honor for them to have the opportunity to help the family with something. And then the family felt supported and cared for. And this is beyond just taking meals, right? Like, I think food is great. It is the first thing people do, but that's not everyone's gift. And sometimes there are other things that are needed. So taking the dog for a walk, someone donating money to, this was quite a few years ago, and someone donated money to get Wi-Fi put into the house. So looking at things that were going to help the family, but also looking at the gifts that the friends and loved ones had and how they could best support them.
So the idea was really to sort of codify community friend support for what was most effective and helpful to the people that needed it, in this case the family.
Yes.
From the people who wanted to be involved with helping in their own way, right?
Yes.
I'm not a chef. I know you love to cook. I don't as much. So food's not really my thing. But figuring out logistical support and getting kids to practices while doctor appointments are happening, that's a great way for me to help. As a driver, driving is something I'm good at. So figuring out it seems to me like you sort of took a step back through your own personal experience and went, how can we help people help each other in times of need in the way they want and need effectively?
Right. And making it easy for people to figure out how to ask and for other people to respond, because asking for help is so hard and vulnerable and awkward and overwhelming. I mean, let's just think about different time. I have so many countless times in my life when people have said, let me know if there's anything I can do. And if I'm going through something, I'm literally like, I don't even know what I'm doing in 5 minutes. I don't know what you can do to help me.
It's like those moments when you're drowning, if it's, figuratively drowning in work or stress or craziness or whatever's going on. And people are like, oh, how can I help? I'm like, right now, all I can think about is keeping my head above water. I can't think about how to ask for help, which, as you say, is very often a bridge too far for a lot of people. It's hard for people to say, I need help. Here's what I need done. Can you just handle it?
Well, and there's the like, I'm a capable human. I didn't need help yesterday. Why do I need help today? Am I going to owe someone something for this? Or no, my immediate family can take care of it for me. I have a kind of funny story in, like, what my business is at this point. And about 6 years ago or so, Friday night, I'm running to the grocery store because I need to get food for the kids for dinner. And as I'm walking in, I got hit by a car in the parking lot. And
not in your car, you're walking.
I was walking into the store. It was very low speed, very low impact. I feel embarrassed when race car drivers are listening this to even like mention it, because it was so like, I literally was like banging on her hood, like, please stop running me over. But I had a broken foot and a broken hand and had to get surgery on them. And my mom and sister had to come in to me one day while I was laying down on the couch with my foot up. And they're like, you need a What Friends Do page because you are putting a lot of burden on us because your husband's out of state, your kids can't drive, you can't even get your coffee by yourself right now. You need some help here, right? So it is so hard.
And I love the visual of your mom and sister being like, so you know that thing you do at work? You have this incredible structure, community for other people to help people when they need help.
Yeah.
How about you create one for yourself because it's time for the rubber to meet the road here. You need help and you're loading us up too much.
I mean, that's maybe what happened. Yeah.
And did it work? Like, did you create a team for yourself, a community, a What Friends Do? And
Yeah.
and did it teach you about how to evolve or learn or change the platform and the structure? Like, what was your personal experience using your own brainchild? What was that like?
It reinforced a lot of the things that I had already kind of known in the way that I usually suggest to other people, let your sister or your best friend or that, sorry, it's usually an alpha female, let her run this for you because she's going to tell everyone what you need and you're only going to put about half of it on there. And it just feels different when someone else can allow you to be seen, allow you to be cared for, and it's humbling, and it's hard sometimes to even do that on your own. But that for some reason allowing that middle person. So that reinforced to me how important it is to allow that one other person in to say, this is what the family needs right now. This is how you can best come in and support them. And obviously with me understanding like, okay, these are the things that I need and this is where it needs to come in. But the thing that is the most beautiful from all of this is like people step in people who you aren't always expecting. And I got to learn about gifts that my friends had that I didn't even know, right? Like friends who, some of my closest friends, for like, I'm not making you, but I will come over and get you out of the bathtub and change your stitches for you. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah.
Right.
I was like, okay. So, and actually from that experience, I learned, which is now like a signature helping thing that we offer on our website. And it's a daily check-in. And I want anyone who's ever going through any life event, you need a daily check-in more than anything else, right? And that person texts you first thing in the morning to say, I'm your person for the day. Like I'm going to live my life, but I'm going to check in with you this morning. Do you need me to bring you coffee? Do you have lunch scheduled? Do you need me to go pick up any prescriptions? Do you need me to run to the store? Do you have any errands I can run? Do you need me to get you to an appointment? And then checking in multiple times through the day because the day can change, right? Do you need me to come and change the ice in your ice machine? Because
my perspective, and the more I listen to you talk about this, and obviously the passion for it, it's pretty clear. But you look back 100 or 200 years ago, right? And you think back to it takes a village to raise children, right? And now I think as a world, we've maybe gotten a little away from relying on our village. And this is a great way to create that structure to make it easy for the village to step up, and make it in a way that people know they can be supportive, know they can be successful, and can turn around and help you in a way that they can, right? That the daily check-in, I think, is a great example of that. It's almost almost an executive assistant for the day, right? Like everything from getting you coffee to like taking you to your doctor's appointment and taking notes so you can listen and I can, or whoever that is can transcribe. And at the end of the day, can then become that clearinghouse for information dissemination, right? Like we see it all the time in crisis management, at least I do, if it's with family, if it's at work,
Yeah.
that there's always ends up being one sort of collector. And it's, there's one collection point and then it distributes from there. And having the structure to offer those services and create the almost the talking points, right? The outline for support,
Mhm.
um, makes asking for help easier.
It makes it easier, and it makes it easier for the people who want to support you, right? So they can look through, we have a website, our web-based software. So someone can log in and see all of the needs that you have and match their schedule to when you need it, And so neither of you have to feel burdened by this. You can plan ahead a little bit. And I say that because there's just so much emotion around helping people, and receiving help. And if you know that the person who's helping you really wants to do it, it's in their skill set, it just feels better. I remember it was a few weeks after my dad had died. And I was young enough that, like, as 20, so I didn't really know all of this, but I can remember a woman who we went to church with, who I didn't even know very well. And I was like, why is she in our house? And she was a bookkeeper, and she was coming and organizing all of the bills that had come in while my dad was in the hospital. And she's like, judgment free. I do this all the time. This is my skill set. This is what I do. They're so, and she was like, I'm so glad to have something that I can help you with, So just remembering so many things.
Well, and that to me it becomes both sides of the equation, right? It's not just the people who need help to get through an
Mm-hmm.
unexpected challenge, a diagnosis, an injury, a
Mm-hmm.
psychological trauma, an emotional trauma, whatever that is, right? But it's the people that want to help have a way to do it in a way that's really effective. Like if somebody
Yeah.
said if somebody said to me and was I like friend goes, "Yeah, I was in a car wreck and I'm bedbound and what I need right now is 3 meals a day for the next 5 days." I would feel absolutely thrown in at the deep end. And a complete like they would be eating beans and rice for the next 5 days because that's what I could provide.
No, Charlie, you would call me and I would say, no problem, Charlie. Find out what their favorite restaurant is, pick up their stuff, and drop it off. And then,
Yep.
and I would give you
And
the
then what else
ideas,
they
but what
need
else?
that I c right.
Yes.
Well, and that's the thing. It's providing the support that allows both sides of the equation to be fulfilled and be better because of it.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you said a minute ago, it's the village. And I truly believe, and World Health Organization even has studies on this, people with stronger support networks have better outcomes, right? And that goes not only for the person who's going through something specifically, but their caregivers, their immediate family. And I mean, that's all the people in their closest network, because if they're all being supported, then they're all going to stay healthier and they're all going to, or get healthier. Um, Look at that sociology degree coming in.
And once again, your sociology degree coming back, coming home to roost again. But when you talk about the village side, like as a professional athlete in motorsports, like, yeah, okay, they talk about the driver winning a race, but it's always a team. It's always a team
Always.
sport. And you talk about you look at high performing individuals and it is never just an individual. It takes a whole team from start to finish. And why should we as people and as the world not think about relying on our personal teams? I mean, I as a driver with diabetes, I talked for a lot of years about I had my race team, I had my healthcare team, and then I had my home team, and that was my wife Kathleen and my parents and my friends, the ones that kept me sane when stuff was getting crazy, the ones that kept me grounded.
Yeah.
And in times of need, even if you're not talking at this point now about being high performing, right? You're just talking about getting through something really hard.
Right.
Why wouldn't you lean on the best team you could find?
And why wouldn't you also allow the outside networks to help make sure that your core team is as taken care of as possible as well?
And that's where that support structure within the network and within what friends do is built for, right?
100%. 100%.
So I can't imagine, again, name of the podcast is Speed Bumps. I can't imagine that it's been the smoothest road always building this business, building this structure, building this network for other people in challenges. And sometimes I know it's harder to be introspective when your job is to create a network to help other people. And I love the story from your mom and sister being like, "Hey, you need to use your own platform." But on a building a business side, you're a very successful, what was the term? Mompreneur of the year? Top 50 mompreneur of the year from eBabble? Like, how and what challenges did you face building this up that you look back and thought, "I was never thought I was getting over that speed bump, and here I am looking back at it instead of looking forwards at it."
Charlie, there's actually a lot. So I mean, I'll try and keep it as condensed as possible, right? Like I started out working with my mom. And we started it together as a B2C software platform, thinking we could get enough users, make enough money off of ads, all that kind of stuff. It costs crazy amount of money. And right, like just to get enough volume to make enough volume. And got to a point with my mom that it was kind of better for her to step out of the business for a little while, which is weird in a relationship with a mom and daughter and co-founders together. But luckily, our family relationship was great, and so that worked through it. But switch business models, that is not a really easy thing, right? So switched business models from a B2C to a B2B, but switching to a B2B meant I needed even more capital to get it going. Raised some venture capital. I'm located in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is really great for SaaS tech startups. It's really great for guys who are looking for venture capital. And I was the first woman to close venture capital over $500,000 in the state. And I closed it in 2016. Some of the venture groups who I pitched to had never had a female founder pitch to them before. Oh yeah. I was the first female founder many of these people had ever invested in 2016 in Indiana. I have a business that not everyone understands. And by that, I mean for a lot of decades, centuries maybe, this has been all of that village to raise your children thing is kind of thought as women's work. And I won't forget a quote that I had from a man at a venture group when I was pitching to him. And he said, "Do you think there's money and cost around taking food to people when they're sick?" And I kind of just looked at him and I was like, you've never taken a meal to someone. And so I think I was better at it saying this than I will be right now. I'm a little less unfiltered about it now, but I was like, has your wife ever taken a meal to someone? Did she spend an hour going to the store and an hour making food and an hour dropping it off and spending time with that family? And pretend you gave that stay-at-home wife a salary, even of $25 an hour or $10 an hour. And let's just talk about then the $200 that she spent at the store and the meal she made you. And what if we could be getting just a percentage of this by getting a little bit of the affiliate revenue, enabling her to know what the family wants. Anyway.
To me, I see it, if you apply it through any lens, right? Within business, if you put two people that want to do business together and you make that connection and they only make that connection because of you, there are people that make there's whole industries built on finder's fees, right? And why is
right? Well, and I'm not even finding them, right? Like, this is their own network of people who want to be there.
Right. But it's a facilitator fee.
Yeah.
Maybe a different vernacular, but as a facilitator, there is no question people who facilitate business are compensated. Why wouldn't you think that people who facilitate help and support and community wouldn't be compensated as well?
Right.
And did you get past those questions? I mean, you obviously did, right? You closed this massive round of funding, coming up on almost 10 years ago now. And the business is running and has been running for almost a decade.
Yep.
And how do you, when you make those points, are there light bulb moments for these investment groups that go, oh yeah, I hadn't considered that? Or do you have to just lead them piecemeal all the way through? Or I guess it's probably like life. Some people are real detail oriented and want to know every little detail to get from A to Z. And some people, you show them the right lens and they see it all at once. What was the hardest thing there for you?
Well, I think the hardest thing that I had to get through my mind as I was getting started, because I didn't know anything about venture capital. Surprisingly, they didn't teach us about that in sociology. But they was learning that there's smart money, and I didn't have to take money from everyone. My core group of investors, 5 of the 7 were females. They were like, yep, done. Totally get it. This makes perfect sense. And so you go to the people who understand it. Not everybody wants to invest in you. You don't want them to invest in you if they don't want to do that, right? It's kind of the same thing that we were talking about earlier. Like, find the people who are going to work. But all of that said, especially in Indianapolis 10 years ago, people didn't understand this. And they were investing in things that they already knew about. And they knew how to make work. So it was a little bit of a challenge. And again, they weren't used to women standing up. I mean, literally one of the groups, I called a girlfriend and said, hey, what do I wear to this? Is this like, let me pitch in a pantsuit? Is this let me pitch in a really nice dress? Like, and she's like, oh, we've never had a woman pitch to us before. And here I was.
So it's like, I have no idea what to wear because.
Oh, no, I was.
Yeah, you're the first.
Yeah, right? Like, and this is the kind of thing like I only call my girlfriends about late at night. I'm like, what am I going to wear to this? But those are some of the speed bumps that I had, though. And then I had, investors who would ask me, do you think you can really run a company when you have little kids? And I was like, I do. And you know what? It's really fabulous because when I'm driving carpool, I've got somebody taking notes for me. And she's like, she knows all about cap tables. She knows about vesting. Like, they know all of the stuff. And so as I was driving my minivan full of middle schoolers, they would learn about business. And I felt great to be able to give them the opportunity to learn about things.
So not only were you building your business, but building future businesses through your children's experience.
Yeah.
And it was successful, right? You came through these speed bumps. You've built this business, and it taught you a lot about handling challenges. And I did ask before we went on air to make sure I was okay to ask these questions, but you've had
Yeah.
a lot of personal speed bumps over the last year and a half or so. And I will point out we are friends
Yeah.
outside of this podcast. So I've heard some of the nuts and bolts at different times over the last year and a half or so. I'm going to let you introduce that and talk about how some of the experiences with What Friends Do and raising a round of funding, being the first woman to pitch to venture groups, what those experiences taught you about how to face the speed bumps you've had at home and in business for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. And because you're friends and we're friends, I'll do my best to keep it together, but I don't always do that. So business was great. And then shortly after the pandemic, realized that we had kind of forgotten a critical piece in a lot of our B2B marketplace, and we got cut out of the workflow in almost all of the hospital systems where we had our services. And so 2020 and 2021 were the best years ever. By the end of 2022, I was looking at closing the business down because we had lost almost everything and almost all of our clients. Because, like I said, we were relying on social work and nurse navigators to give our product to caregivers, and caregivers weren't in the hospital. And we were a really nice to have. We were like doing great things for patient experience, but we weren't a need to have like it was in COVID. So I was in a pretty bad spot with work for a while and started a podcast that was going great. And last summer, took the summer off because my littlest baby was going away and graduating from high school, and I was getting ready to be an empty nester, and moved my baby in, and then went to visit my daughter who was away at school. As I was driving home from visiting her, I experienced some like weird health stuff, and ended up going to the doctor and being told that they thought I had ovarian cancer and had to have surgery to have an ovary removed. Luckily, it was benign. I'm great. My health is fabulous right now. But that was a really, really like sitting there waiting with the, like, we think you have cancer, right? Like, I've been helping people with this, but to have that phone call, to have to sit and wait, to have to go into surgery, to have to then still wait after surgery and recover, even though the doctor took it out and she's like, I think it looks like but you still have to wait. Over the course of that week or two, my husband of 23 years said he didn't want to be married anymore and moved out shortly after that. And we ended up having to sell our house because we were in a big house, too big for me to need to be in it on my own. So over the course of about 3.5, 4 weeks, I went empty nest, cancer, scare, divorce, and moving. So I had a couple of those quickly.
Yeah. So So when you talk about, and this is going to very undersell this, and I think this is going to be very hard to undersell this because you go through a global pandemic in a space where you support people through personal
Mhm.
health, family challenges.
Right.
Business hits a brick wall,
Yeah.
turns out to be a big speed bump. And then you face the emotional challenge of a mother who does not have children at home full time anymore.
And I mommed pretty hard,
And
Charlie.
yeah, driving minivans full of middle schoolers taking transcription notes of your cap raise, like absolutely, I get the momming. Um, and then on the drive home, you get sick, surgery, out of surgery, still waiting for results, file for divorce, in that process, move home. Like I have read somewhere that some of the like biggest life disrupting events are getting married, getting divorced, having a child, or moving homes. So like if you instead of say having a child but sending a child to college, you kind of hit all of those in the span of 12 months.
Oh, really? In the span of like 2 months, but yeah.
Okay. So compressed time frame.
Yeah.
And you're still sitting here. When you look back, and there has been a little, correct me when I'm wrong here, not if, but when, correct me when I'm wrong, but there's been some time and space and a little bit perspective I would expect now. When you
Yeah.
look back at those darkest moments, what flicker of light helps you get through? And I'll let you think on that for a second, and how do you apply that in your approach to supporting through your business and through just your network of being a good person? How do you use the flickers in your hardest times to help more people going forward?
Well, the first question that you asked takes no time at all for me to respond. How did I get through? It was my sister and my best friends and some friends who I don't use the word angels a lot, but they like came in who I didn't even know what their gifts were, right? And a neighbor who was a realtor who has become one of my closest friends and who literally held my hand through the sale of my house and then was so gentle and compassionate, helping me find a new home for my new life. And I didn't even know. I'd known her for 10 or 15 years, but we'd seen each other socially, but she wasn't like a good friend. Another good friend, like I had friends who literally came over some days and were like, we're just getting out of bed today, Aimee. Like, that's what we're doing. We're getting out of bed, and this is what we're doing.
Goal.
And my mom and my sister, I'm just so lucky to have them because they picked up pieces that I didn't even know I dropped, right? Everything was absolutely gone and shattered. And I've already touched on one of these, and I just believe it so much. People came into my life who I'd known, and they're like, hey, my gift is organization. Can I just go through? I know you've got this 6,000 square foot house that has to get sold and on the market in the next week. Let me organize your closets for you. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's no problem. I would love to do this for you. You're so like, I want to help you. Let me do this. And so remembering that and getting the opportunity to then learn about them through that, right? Like people wanted to help. But the other lesson that I had to remember for a long time is one that not everyone needs to know everything all the time. Which sounds silly and ridiculous, but it was really hard for me, right? Like I just felt like such a failure in every way of my life. at moments, right? And I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to have to talk to people. I didn't want people to ask me, how are you? Because I wasn't okay, right? And if they asked, I would just crumble. And so I had to remember and learn that I didn't have to share everything. Not everyone needed to know. So shameless plug, I have a podcast as well. And the very
Absolutely.
first episode of my, yeah, and it's called Kitchen Chats. And we're talking about life's hard moments. And my girlfriends and I sit in the kitchen and we figure out what's next. And the first episode is with my sister, who's my sister and also a therapist, good and bad. But but one of the things that she talks about there is remembering that sharing information is kind of, she likes to use an analogy of a house. And not everyone gets invited inside your house. The DoorDash person leaves the stuff at the door and turns away. Some people have the opportunity to come into the entryway. Some people have the opportunity to come and sit down in the living room with you. Some of your really close friends get to have those intimate conversations with you in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I have one girlfriend who literally got me out of the bathtub after I had my broken foot, right?
Yeah.
She actually happens to be the same one who came into my bedroom and said, Aimee, we're getting out of bed today. Because that's how my people work. So remembering that, yeah, go ahead.
No. I love the perspective there, because the fact that you don't have to share everything, good, bad, ugly, or fantastic, right? It's your life, it's your information, it's your ideas. You get to choose what and when you share and why. I really want to talk about, kitchen chats. I think it's just a great idea about hard moments. And actually, the reason you're on this podcast is you sent an email about your podcast and business, and I can't wait to talk about hard things, because,
yeah,
over the last 3 years, I went from being a full-time professional driver, athlete, racing driver, with a couple of young kids, and my wife was the stay-at-home and I was the breadwinner, and we lived in Indiana, and now we live in California. I'm not driving. I'm still in motorsports. I can't give it up. It's in my blood. But my wife's the breadwinner, and we own a business that's her passion. And there are times I feel like I'm living in the upside down, right? I feel like I'm in this alternate universe.
Right.
And only 3 years later am I starting to recognize that feeling and recognize talking about it with the people I want to talk about it with, right? Like when I'm in the gym or on the tennis court with friends, like, I'm not talking about that stuff. They ask, "Oh, when's your next race?" It's like, "Oh, well, I'm headed to Nashville to go broadcast." Right? That's all they get to know. They don't have to hear that I'm going to go and I'm going to feel hollow that I'm not in a race car this weekend. Well, things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also want to say thank you, because, like, it was very clear as you relayed that 2-month time period how powerful it was for you, and remains being that impactful. And I loved hearing, and it really struck me, your passion about the people that helped you, right? Those, you talked about angels, you talked about, okay, like, your girlfriend, like, we're getting out of bed today. Like, I'm going to come organize your closets and clean stuff out that just needs to get cleaned out, because I can help that way. And using your sister's analogy of a house, right? Like, it's really easy to understand when someone says, "Hey, you don't get to get past the front door," right? Like, in my psyche, my psychology, like, you're going to come up, you're going to say hi, you're going to hand me a plate of cookies, and then you're going to leave, right? Like, that's okay, because there are people you need not everyone has to come inside your house, and there are people that you should probably let into your house,
Right.
because you need both.
You need both. Well, and then the reminder for me as I was going through all of this, the number one like pushback that I hear from people when I, like we have this service, whatever, and people are like, oh, we aren't going to need it. We don't need it. I was at a bookstore selling my book the other day, like at an expo on aging and planning your life. And they're like, no, I don't need a planner for this. Anyway, we can get I'm like, people don't want to think that they need help.
That seems ironic.
People don't want to think that they
Right.
need help. Okay. And remembering and realizing that it takes time to realize that you need help. And that was a big lesson for me as a business owner in this line of work, to remember they don't know that they need help yet. They don't know because they're not ready for it yet. And that's okay.
Okay. Well, now on speed bumps, I warned you I was going to do this. Having talked about your story from the great mascot at Illinois, I would screw it up again, so I'm not going to say it.
Illini.
There you go. There's ILLI and then or something.
Yeah. All the vowels.
All the vowels. And going through to starting What Friends Do and your own personal journey with it, to then some of the massive speed bumps you've navigated over the last couple of years. It's really inspiring to me to hear how those lessons shaped your ability to continue to build community and networks, to meet people when they realize they want and need help, right? It's what I hear from you is you want to build a structure that meets people when they want help in a way that supports both the people who need help and are asking for help, and their network that wants to give it in the most effective way for both sides. So it's been incredibly inspiring. Thank you for joining us. Now, on Speed Bumps, we ask the same 3 questions of our guests. Number 1, what is the best advice you've ever gotten, and from whom?
So I think the best advice that I try to live by, I read it somewhere, or maybe a therapist told me, or I don't know, but it's from Brené Brown, who is wonderful. And it's one of my core beliefs. And that is, everyone's doing the best that they can. And I try to remind myself that sometimes too.
Yep.
I'm doing the best I can as well. And giving everyone that grace as we're moving through life. So that's the advice that I like to try and work with.
I love that. Okay, now I'm a car guy. Speed bumps.
Oh yeah.
This is going to be this may be the hardest question I ask you all day. What's your dream car?
It is.
What is your dream car? Modern supercar, muscle car, pickup truck, like something that has zero maintenance and you never have to take it in to get service. What if you could dream a car, what would it be?
You know that this is like the worst question ever for me. So I think I have kind of 2. Is that allowed? Because I don't do cars that much. So I'll do it really quickly.
That's
so
allowed.
One, I want a fully plug-in BMW iX.
Okay.
That has like at least 500-mile range. And then when I'm living out of my car for a winter and we're skiing together, I've got a vehicle large enough for my skis and can get in and out of the snow.
That's fair. Absolutely. Car number 2?
Car number 2, I want like a 1970s MG convertible.
So, funny story about an MG convertible. My mom, so my parents were married in 75. Shortly after they were married, I want to say early 80s, my mom had an orange MGB with wire wheels. And it was the bane of my dad's existence because he spent hours tuning the carburetors and they were never right. And it was stolen out of their driveway.
Oh no.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. That was the plot twist there. Stolen out of their driveway. So MGB is maybe not the most secure vehicle, but I totally get it. Like a classic little fun sports car to zip around town. Like
That would look so that'd be so fun. Yeah. Anyway.
Right. And so that you just said, oh, I would look so fun in that car.
I would.
There's a great, had a guest on Speed Bumps, an author friend of mine by the name of Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money. And he has a theory called the man in the car paradox, or the person in the car paradox. And he talks about people like it, having these incredibly high-end supercars with the idea that when they're driving them, people look at them and think, oh, they're cool. They're driving